Okay, we should be on the air now. And I will go ahead and get logged in here. So if anyone else joins, we have them all here. All right. Welcome to anyone who's in here a while. Just getting set up. We'll be ready for just a second. Events here. Live control room is open, so I can let you know if anyone has any questions. They can put those into the chat. Okay, looks like we have people starting to trickle in here. We have a few people in the room with us. Welcome. We're just going to get started in a minute here. Give everyone some time to get in here. If you have any questions, you can put those in the chat. I'll be monitoring that to let you know. And I also have the link to, I guess what you would call their resource page. Is that correct, ladies? For you to access here. All right. I'll put that in the chat here too. Hey, Rick, welcome. Unfortunately, it won't let me paste it into the chat. I wonder why it won't let me paste it in the chat. That's frustrating. Oh, well, I'm going to have to show it on the slide. Okay. Hey, Laurie, welcome. All right, it is 8:01, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm going to share my screen with you. And the craziness there for a second. All right, welcome to the ISTE Edtech Coaches final webinar series of the year. We're going to go through a little bit of an introduction first as you all sign in. Thank you for saying hello. We do have the chat set up, so if you do have any questions, I will be letting the moderators know and the presenters know the questions as they come in or at the end, depending on if it's something that can wait or not. So everywhere where you're saying hello here, you can put the questions in there also. So let's get started. We have our leadership team here. This year, our president is Pam Shoemaker. And next year, our president will be Lesley. And we also have Greg on our team and Katie, Ruth, Melissa, and Steve. I am Melissa. I'm here actually assisting for Katie tonight, who had a grad class. And so I am moderating tonight for her. There's many ways to get connected with the EdTech coaches. We have our PLN homepage. We have our Twitter, hashtag #ETCoaches, Google+, Voxer, Remind Group, and all the information here is listed for you. If you are not a member of ISTE or a member of our PLN, we encourage you to do that. And to do that, you go to community.iste.org and hit join a PLN. It's a great way to build up your PLN, whether you choose to be with EdTech coaches or another one, find one that suits your needs, or get involved in many. I think I'm in about, oh my goodness, 22 at this point. So find some that work for you. On our EdTech Coaches Network page, you'll find the discussion boards, library, blogs, list of our events, all sorts of things going on. You can see we have over 4,000 members going on, so we have a very busy network, and we offer a lot of free professional learning opportunities for you. Some of those opportunities, we have our Twitter chats. That's one thing that I'm in charge of. They are held the last Tuesday of every month at 1 o'clock and 8 p.m. Eastern time. We use hashtag ETCoaches, and it is the same set of questions both times. We do repeat the chat to accommodate different schedules and time zones. If you would like a reminder about these chats, you can go to remind.com/join/ETCoaches. We also just wrapped up our book study for this year. I'm not sure if you've joined us or not. We do a slow chat method. So you want to follow along and watch for our next book study. They're great fun. The Playground webinar series, that's what you are here tonight. Every year we have a playground at the ISTE conference. And we watch that and we try to find some presentations that we feel our members would really enjoy who may not have been able to attend ISTE. And then our hope is to extend the learning and connection beyond the conference and connect with those who could not attend the conference. And so we offer these webinars so you can get a taste of what was presented at the playground. We also have blogging buddies, and we have our local conference meetup kit. So if you're going to a local conference and would like to kind of get together with all the ET coach members, the meetup kit is ready to go. And we also have an ISTE Standards Refresh event. Tonight, we're going to be learning about On the Grow, How to Grow as an Instructional Technology Coach by Lesley, Burdine, and Danielle Head. Now, they wanted to make sure that you had this Google site link ahead of time, so I'm going to leave this slide up here for a minute so you can get this. They would like you to pull it up so you can follow along. The site's google.com/cmcss.net/pro-on-the-grow/home. So I'm just going to leave that here for a minute so you can go ahead and put that there. I will also put that into the chat here. And so hopefully that will make it easier for you one way or the other to get there. I'm going to just leave this up here for a minute. Before I introduce our presenters tonight. All right. I put that in the chat also, so you have it there. I think you can just actually directly click on it in the chat. That's easier. But let's talk about who will be presenting tonight. We have Danielle Head and Lesley Burdine. Both are technology integration coaches in Clarksville, Montgomery County School System in Tennessee. So without any further ado, I'm going to come back to you and stop sharing for a moment and pass the screen over to our presenters for the evening. Ladies, it's all yours.
Hello, everyone. Hi, thank you, Melissa. All right, so my name is Lesley Burdine, as you saw, and we are both in our second year, nearing the end of the year of our second year as technology integration coaches here in our district in Clarksville, Montgomery County in Tennessee, which is, to give you some context, about 45 minutes northwest of Nashville. We're in a military town, and to give you just a slight idea of this district we work in, our district serves about 39,000 students, so it's a very large district considering we're not even, I think we're the 5th largest town in Tennessee, or city in Tennessee. But that's kind of what we do. I have a middle school background, taught 10 years in middle school, primarily 8th grade U.S. history, reading, and reading intervention. And after coming out of the classroom my 10th year, we started this role last year at the same time.
working with STEM concentrations, which is
Yes, and I primarily serve now in this role a middle and a high school that are on the same campuses. Let us turn our mics up.
The one microphone's working perfectly fine. The other one's very quiet.
Are you hearing me now?
I hear you now, loud and clear. Thanks.
So myself, like Danny said, she serves 5 elementary schools in our district as a technology integration coach, and I serve 2 schools, and they are on the same campus. It's Rossview Middle School and Rossview High School, 2 fabulous schools. They are very large. We were just in a leadership training for our district. That's a monthly training we go to, and we actually just found out that the 2 schools that I serve are like 120% capacity at this point, so busting at the seams. But you know, you can see that, you know, we are aware of the other districts around us that are maybe have more technology integration coaches, more instructional technology coaches in a school. So we are somewhat spread thin, and I think you will see that coming through, but at the same time, it's just how you manage it. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we walk you through our site.
I think.
Something like that, yeah.
But one-to-one, then as our district was more one-to-one, we went 6 through 12 with one-to-one devices. There was a need for more integration coaches, and so that's how we came along. Our director of our department, Dr. Mason, proposed to us or challenged us to submit a proposal for ISTE, and he told us that if we got accepted, that he would make sure there was money for us to go. He gave that invitation to all 12 of us.
And I remember thinking immediately, like, what in the world is ISTE? Because I didn't, at that point, we were so new. I was like, I don't even know what it is. I don't know how to propose for it.
Here we are, new to this department and to this new Edtech world. And we really, I think a lot of the new ones thought, what do we have to offer at such a large national conference? And so I think almost all of us in our department ended up submitting something. There was a couple denials, there were some wait lists, and there were some acceptances.
And in most cases, I know that we all, at our director's urging, he said, I can remember replying back to him and saying, thank you so much for the vote of confidence. And, you know, I don't know that I'm quite there yet, but I'm eager to learn more about what ISTE is in the future. And I can remember him saying, oh, don't use that as an excuse. This is a great opportunity for you to partner with one of our veteran techs and, you know, use that as an opportunity to propose. So, you know, I know I partnered with a couple of our more seasoned techs, and we made proposals. One was almost accepted through the crowdsourcing vote, but then it wasn't. So then we were kind of like, okay. And then the Edtech coaches PLN started sending out. I was a member of that and following it, going to all the monthly webinars and learning a lot through that. And I remember getting an email saying, hey, it's not too late to make your proposals to present in the Edtech Coaches Network Playground.
And I think Lesley had a great idea. We were new and we didn't know a whole lot about anything really, but we had learned so much. And so she was just thinking, why don't we share about what we didn't know? Because that was a lot. And there was so much that we grew to learn as in our first year. And that's kind of where this came about. You can see here a little bit about our session and some of the experiences we had. We had a great opportunity of presenting on the playground. We were packed. There were so many people wanting to know more about what we were doing. We created this for EdTech coaches. and we got to meet a lot of technology coaches, but we also had a lot of academic and instructional coaches that really gleaned a lot from what we were sharing and some of the strategies that we had. And that's kind of how this whole Pro on the Grow started to evolve into kind of a different purpose that Lesley is going to share about.
And as you can see, like Amy said, initially this was all about our new role as instructional technology coaches. And keep in mind, our district calls it technology integration coach, but we are directly under professional development and in the instruction and curriculum department of our district. So what we decided to do for our presentation, we were like, well, how do we want to present? Because we weren't exactly sure how playground worked. Neither of us have been to ISTE yet. So what we decided on was to start by just creating a site. And it's the one you're looking at now. And this is definitely a labor of love. And it is definitely kind of like a repository of all the things that we've been, by far, we could never put it all in here, but we try to keep adding to it and using this almost like a reflective journal on the things that we're learning so we can revisit it and share those lessons with other people so they don't have to learn them the hard way. We have come up with a lot of valuable resources that we refer to often, and a lot of those are going to be on here for you to see. Let's see, and we're having just a little technical difficulty, but you are able to follow along on your screen as well. But we're just kind of starting on the home page and working our way through that, which is about the same thing we did in our presentation at the playground. We just kind of wanted to share the resource because more than anything, it's just kind of a hub for new instructional coaches. So our first year we spent, I can remember going in, we actually started our very first week in this role was during our district provides all the in-service opportunities for professional development that require teachers to earn hours every year. We did that. We do that through something we call our Engage conference. If you want to check it out, I encourage you to take a look on our school system's website. But our Engage conference is we do 1 week in June and 1 week in July, and it's run very much for the whole district and all teachers like a conference, like ISTE. The teachers go in and they sign up for the sessions they most want to attend. They create their own schedule. This year, we've even got one of the members of our team has developed an actual app, a conference app for our professional development conference, all in-house. And it, a lot of it focuses on technology, but a lot of it focuses on just content and curriculum and strategies and all kinds of things. So our first week as technology integration coaches, we call ourselves TICs, by the way. So if you hear us say that, that's what we mean. And I can remember our role that week was to sit and listen and learn and soak it all in. We were sitting there thinking, we're teacher leaders. We got this job for a reason. We're so tech savvy. And the more that we learned, the more we realized we did not know. And the more we realized all we had to learn and all we needed to learn to be, to feel confident doing our job. So I really feel like the shift from our first year, I was really focused. The first year was so much about learning the tech and learning the technology and learning the tools that that our district has purchased and learning how to train those tools effectively. It was so focused on the tech that we didn't maybe get as deep into the work or as rich into the work of actual coaching. And I feel like that's been the biggest shift this year. The shift has been much more toward the actual coaching work rather than just the technology. So we're taking all those valuable lessons we learned last year and being able to kind of embed those into our coaching work this year. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in a bit. So we kind of have expanded our focus for the site and what we've been doing with it since. And we do want to highlight at the very bottom, you will see that we did want to make sure that we're tying this to, we want to make sure, just like the teachers we work with, that we are basing our work on standards, basing our work on leading best practices and the things that we are out there, suggesting that teachers consider. And with ISTE being a leader in that, we certainly wanted to ensure that we are aligning with their coaching standards. I know that we also try to gear a lot of our work with teachers in our district toward 2 different standards-based documents, and that would be our Tennessee State teaching evaluation rubric. We call it the team rubric. And we focus on that with teachers and make sure that our work is geared toward helping them grow as teachers according to the measurement tool that they are observed by administrators with. And also our district has a blended learning rubric that they kind of rolled out in segments. They had a year 1 plan and a year 2 plan. So we try to draw a lot of that, our work back to that blended learning rubric. And when I started looking at the, I think what was the ISTE Edtech Coaches Playground last year was all about tools for the job. And when I thought, you know, what sums up my first year as a coach is I have got a lot of room to grow. And I would realize more and more every day, oh, I still had to learn. For someone like me, I'm kind of very driven by learning and growing, and almost to a fault sometimes. I don't, and I love to learn. I really love challenges. I love to figure it out if I don't know it. I'm fascinated by research, and we started doing some of the research and getting into things like, we knew about the growth mindset. We knew it existed. We kind of knew what it was, but we started doing some research on it and found some really good tools that would help us to kind of start off the right way.
A lot of times when we think about growth mindset, especially for us coming from the classroom and working with students, we see students who don't have that growth mindset, who are fixed. And I don't think a lot of times we associate that with adult learners too. As educators, do we work with people, or do we have a growth mindset, and how do you combat that with an adult as opposed to with a student?
Yeah, and I think it's really important that we not, you know, it's so easy to walk away and just say, oh, well, I tried, with that teacher who's maybe just more like, I got it, I can do this, I don't need your help, you know? And we want to make sure that we are reaching out to everyone. But I did start to realize that first year, it was so much about, I mean, no one in the high school even knew my name, knew my face. I had not been in a high school since I was in high school. So, and I look young, even though I am not. I look young and I'm short and I fit right in there, and no one would even know I was there if I hadn't introduced myself. So fortunately, I am extremely social and not introverted in any way, form, or fashion. So I found things like just walking through the halls and visiting and getting to know people, and, you know, finding ways that I know you and you know me and we know the same people, and just kind of networking and just getting to know them on a personal level first. I mean, I think one of the most impactful things I ever heard in my training to be a teacher was, they never know you, they don't really care what you know until they know that you care. So I really tried to make that my first contact with teachers, is not, let me come in, let me help you, let me make you better, let me do this, let me do that, do you need my help? I really tried to make it more about just getting to know them, introducing myself, letting them know kind of what I'm here for, who I am. Although I feel like, I don't know if you do, Danny, but I feel like that's probably the most difficult part of our job is I still do not feel like the majority of the teachers that I serve even really know that what my job really is all about. Very often mistaken for the tech girl, you know, the one that's going to come fix your printer, or when that is not what we are about. I'll certainly help you all day long, but, you know, we want to get in there and help to improve instruction and learning. So I think that's been a very difficult task as a first year coach, was dispelling that and helping people understand we're here for more than just that.
Classroom or a school, pick out some teachers who you can tell are motivated and have that growth mindset. Start working with first, because you're new, you're fragile, and you might not have all the answers. I know I was very, very nervous some of my first lessons. So when I was in the company of somebody who was a go-getter and ready to jump in and do things, I felt more confident with the way things were going to go in the beginning. As I've gotten more experience, I feel more confident with going to those teachers who have more of that fixed mindset and working with them to try to make a shift in some of their goals and outlook on things.
I would even venture to say that, I mean, I think both of us feel the same way about presenting. I mean, even when I had that next opportunity to present, I was like, I'm not doing this by myself. Danny, you want to join me? We'll do this together, and that would bring even more insight into what we're trying to share. I also remember this was kind of a valuable first step for me. I don't know if any of you, you're in your first year or your second year and you're still struggling to find your comfort zone or really get out there and really test the waters a little bit, especially with like model lessons, things like that that aren't yours. And one thing that went really well for me in the middle school I worked in, I actually happened to know one of the teachers very, very well. She was just a good friend from church, and I actually reached out to her, and there was one, we were working on using some breakout kits, and I had never done it, and I'd heard it talked about, and I knew it was hugely engaging and so much fun, and these were 6th grade kids, and they need that. And I was so nervous about doing this because I just did not think I was going to get it right. I was going to mess it up. And being with her and her realizing I'm learning, you're learning, it'll be fun for the kids no matter what. They're going to learn regardless. Will you learn with me? And that helped boost my confidence. And also she got to see a new tool. I got to practice with the new tool in a place where I was comfortable, and so was she. So I think even being very intentional about who you pick to work with first, so that you don't, kind of feel like you've gotten the wind knocked out of you the first few times.
And that made me think of one of the things that I always say when I go into a new classroom to model, and that is I always tell my kids, because I'm working with 5 to 11-year-olds, I say, hi, my name is Mrs. Head, and I'm a teacher just like your teacher, except I know a little bit about technology. Your teacher is a much better teacher than I am, and she's going to try to learn from me, but I'm going to learn, I don't know, about cells or whatever it is they're learning, because I don't know that either. And I think that hopefully helps them feel like, okay, I do have that up on her. I don't have to be embarrassed about me being in there. It lets the kids know that their teacher is always learning and that the person coming in to help them is learning as well.
That in itself is just reinforcement of the growth mindset. I also would say, that reminds me, if you're working at the middle and high levels, I mean, that is for real an issue. I work with high school physics teachers and high school French teacher recently. I've been in his class. I've never spoken French, never learned French, Spanish and Hebrew. So being able to teach with him is more of a co-teaching, because I don't know the content and he doesn't know the technology. So we were really partnered together in that. And that's a rich experience. So if you want to, when you're beginning that work with your teacher, I don't know when you would have to determine this for yourself. We do have some suggestions, but this is a tool that I found that I really, really like. I love doing self-assessments, way to kind of get an idea of your baseline, where you're at. And if you click on Map Your Mindset, that link will take you to this self-assessment. And if you see here, you'll see what the results will show you in the end, which of these you fall into. And you'll be able to see, what mindset do you have? And my idea for this, for a new coach, I wish I had known about this when I started. I thought it might be neat to do this like with whole faculty, just make it as everyone's filtering into the meeting, ask them to go in and like take this self-assessment. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get their results right off, or I don't know where they're going to go to. It would be really neat if you would have those results to refer back to throughout the year, to kind of know beforehand, who am I dealing with before I get to them? Are they more of a fixed mindset? Do they have a growth mindset? Maybe the principal would be interested in giving this out to the faculty so they have that data and would be willing to share it with you. Maybe create your own Google form version of this assessment and send it out as more of like a survey. And then they don't really get the results in the end, but you know what those results mean because it came from another tool. Also, you could partner with a teacher and pull their assessment out and score it to determine if they have a fixed or growth mindset, or share with the admin, like I said, and kind of use that as a team, and that would even foster some relationship between you and the admin.
coaches, we have shared some Twitter handles, websites, and other resources, hashtags that you might want to follow to grow your personal learning network, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But these are all pertaining to the growth mindset. So if that's something that you want to focus on, this might be something that you want to start looking up later.
And you'll see that most of those are all linked. You can just click on them and it'll take you straight to them. But those are a lot of like either growth mindset or leadership mentalities. So these are ones we followed and learned a lot from and pulled some of their resources and research. So I think that those would all be great if you're trying to build your own network. All right.
The instructional coaching tab. And so we're going to talk about what coaching looks like for us in our district and how we've kind of made some shifts as we've grown in the past 2 years. So I think when we both went into this position, we knew a great deal about educational technology, and we were pretty strong teachers, which I think is one reason why we got hired.
And I remember they told us, I was not expecting when I sat down, I came in for an interview, I was expecting to be interviewed by someone. I was interviewed by 10 someones at the same time on a panel, and they had structured questions. It was very structured. I was not necessarily prepared for it. But what it came down to is they were not asking you if you were a technology guru. They were asking you questions that would identify whether you were a strong teacher with good pedagogy, with solid pedagogy, with good, all those things that it takes to teach anything. And that's what they valued the most.
So because they were, decent teachers, we did get these positions, but I think coming into this, we had a really small idea about what a coach actually did. We were in our classrooms all day with these same kids all day. And so all we knew what our kids were doing, and we knew what we were doing. We have, in our district, we have academic coaches, and we also have technology coaches. And so I think Lesley and I both probably reached out to our academic and tech coaches quite often, just for modeled lessons, planning ideas, and support. But when those coaches weren't with us, I don't think either of us were really sure what they did. I remember asking in my interview, so when you're not modeling a lesson, what are you doing? So really eye-opening to see what really, I think once we became coaches, going into other schools and other classrooms, it was eye-opening to see that what was happening in my room wasn't what's happening next door or what was happening across the district. I remember going into classrooms and seeing teachers and just being in awe, like, man, if I would have known that strategy, or if I had that classroom management skill, or, oh, if I would have done that Kagan strategy with my kids, it would have been so much better. I wish I would have taught that lesson like that. And there's some times that I've been in classrooms where they want to work on a tool like Nearpod. And I realize as I'm starting to model that I'm not really modeling Nearpod, that I need to be modeling something greater. As far as maybe some classroom management skills, or
having a clear target for the lesson, or an assessment that truly measures mastery of that target,
And I think that was probably one of my first lessons, was a Nearpod lesson. And I realized maybe my purpose here is a little bit more than just Nearpod. Maybe I can have an impact, or even though that wasn't my intention and that wasn't her intention, but maybe she'll glean something from what I'm doing that might be good. Into her own practice inadvertently.
I know for myself, I did know quite a bit about the coaching idea and the coaching process, because initially I thought that all I ever wanted to be, my only ambition beyond the classroom, was to eventually one day, who knows when, teach a college education program for teachers who are training to be student teachers. But I realized that when this position came available, I was like, wait a minute, that's a coach too. And they do the coaching work as well. So while I had been so focused on being an academic coach, and in our district, that is more of a content and using data to drive instruction and things like that, it's less focused on the technology and more focused on the strategies and the strong pedagogy. That I had already done a ton of preparing for that role, and I'd learned so much from my first coach that I knew how valuable coaching could be. But that was with somebody like me that was like, tell me more, I want to know more, I want to do more, and I'm never giving up. And I think that was the one big realization for me. And that's not tooting my own horn by any means, because I would lose tons of sleep over my determination sometimes. But I didn't realize that not everybody is just going to dig their heels in and figure it out. They're going to give up after 5 minutes of trying if it's too difficult. Yes. So when we go down to we talked a little bit about what coaching is, and it really is that coming alongside. And I think that's what it's really all about. It's not me leading them. It's me not even holding their hand. It's just me simply partnering with them to walk them through a cycle, not me dragging them through a cycle, kicking and screaming, and not me like getting so far ahead of them that I'm like, come on already, it's me walking beside of them and letting them set that pace. So I think that when you look at what coaching is not, and I think this is one of the first solid training, professional development on the job lessons we learned. And we had our district actually hired a Dr. Howard Pittler to come in, and Dr. BJ Stone. And they came in, they're authors, they've worked with McCrell, you'll see a lot of their resources on here. And they came in and did just coaching training with us and with some of the content, what do we call them, CCT? Content and curriculum teachers for our district, and did just some coaching training with us. And one thing that we looked at was the difference between a coach and a mentor. And one thing we learned for sure is that a coach is not evaluative. A coach is not an additional administrator. A coach is not your superior. A coach is not looking to get you. A coach is not a tattletale. A coach is coming alongside you, encouraging you and partnering with you to walk through a cycle with you so that you can grow and teaching and learning improves for the students and the teacher. So I can't stress enough, outside of something that, that breaks a school policy or a rule or puts a child in danger, the coaching work is between you and the person you're coaching. It is not something for you to go and run and talk about behind their back and say, oh my gosh, you won't believe what happened. That is something that you are growing through together. So then we're going to move on to the coaching cycle. And this is a lot of information here, but we look at what a coaching cycle should be and what it should include. So if you want to take a look through those bullet points there, those kind of lay out what coaching is, and it is kind of a cyclical thing that happens. It is not something that has a beginning and a set end so that it just begins and then it's over. It's something that you might cycle back through who knows how many times. I know that Dr. Pittler suggested that the ideal time frame for a real in-depth coaching cycle is about the grading period. So for us, that would be a quarter, 9 weeks.
And it takes a little bit longer for me to go through one. I serve 5 schools, and I'm at a different school every day of the week. If there's a holiday or a snow day, that takes out one school that week. So I don't get to see my teachers as often as Lesley does, and that's a little bit harder to fit in. But I feel like we've done a great job to make that work until we can get more of us.
Right, and you'll see as we go through this, it does involve some meeting, and it involves some commitment on their part. And I think you'll quickly realize, if you've not already, that teachers don't love to give up their planning time. I don't care how eager they are to be coached and improve. They don't like giving up planning time. Neither did I. But it requires some meeting and some commitment on their part as well as your part. And sticking with it is key.
Setting these up and having that goal and, I guess, plan in place.
And we're going to share some tools that you can use for that. I know that I get to work Monday, Wednesday in the high school, Tuesday, Thursday in the middle school, sometimes on Fridays and one or the other for the first part of the day. So my work with them is intermittent as well. So it really makes the planning of the cycle very difficult. So you have to be very, very purposeful about it. And so when we move down, we see I'm sorry, my screen's not keeping up. Okay, so we'll see the cycle kind of laid out. Now keep in mind, in my work, both with Dr. Pittler, I've worked with Teach Boost and kind of piloted their coaching management program, which is really an amazing program, and you'll see that resource down here on the bottom somewhere. It is something that you can sign up for a free pilot for, but it's basically like a platform that you use to do all your scheduling and communication with coachee, and it's a very back and forth thing between the two of you. It's beautiful, and you make it fit the cycle that you work by. This is the one that our district adopted out of our work with Dr. Pittler, and we agreed that we would start every cycle with an observation planning meeting. And in that, it's just about you and that teacher making that first initial connection and really setting the goals for the cycle.
And I think that's probably the hardest one to get in is the observation, because I don't know if it's every district, a lot of districts, the teachers are getting evaluated through observations. And so we talked earlier about how we wanted to stay separate and not be evaluative. Mm-hmm. But then here we are. Hey, Lesley, can I come in and watch you teach and give you some feedback? Right. And so I feel like a lot of teachers have been the most hesitant about that part. What do you think?
Yeah, and I'm in the beginning stages of this, because you'll see it moves from the observation planning meeting to the observation. So you actually plan to come and observe them. And you are not observing them to collect any type of evaluative data. You're not reporting that data to anyone but them. And in this initial meeting, it is very, very, very important, I think, to make them feel safe and comfortable that you are agreeing on what you're going to observe with them. And you are not going to give them any more or any less than you have agreed upon regarding feedback, unless they ask for it. If you agreed, right, and if you agreed to give them feedback on how often you saw a student disengaged in learning for, let's say, a 30-minute time period while you were delivering direct instruction, and you come back with the number, I saw 15 different kids, and 5 of them I saw twice, and 1 of them I saw once, just not engaged in learning at all. You give them that data. If they say, okay, thank you so much. So that gives you that starting off point to start planning your work with them. But you're not going to then follow up and say, oh, and then I also saw this other kid over here that pushed so-and-so, and this happened. And it's not a venting session.
It's not, hey, you provide any student feedback. That's not what the goal was. That's not what we're going to focus on when you have that. And I think that will, they know, usually when you settle on this goal, it's going to be something that they know is kind of a weakness to them or an area for growth. And so I think they're going to expect you to have some feedback, and that creates like that safe zone there if you just stick to what had been agreed upon and not branch out and burst their little bubble.
I can remember one observation planning meeting I did with a music teacher in the middle school who literally had 65 students in her classroom at the same time singing. You can imagine 65 8th grade students singing. And they were singing kind of I don't know much about music, but like one group was singing one part while the other group would wait their part, and they would wait. So every time she switched the note or the key, it was one group of kids was doing nothing. So she was asking me just to observe, what do you see happening when they're not singing their part? And what are some things we can think about doing during that? So it was a very, very, that wasn't even easy for me to watch and observe. But we agreed upon how to do that. I gave her that feedback. And then we were able in our reflective next step to go ahead and say, I sat by myself. I counted up all the observation data to share with her. I kind of had some ideas in mind of some tools that I could recommend to kind of come in and help with those things. And then I met with her in the reflective meeting, shared the data with her. We discussed it, asked her how she felt about it. What do you think works? What do you think doesn't? What would you like to make your goal for me coming in to model a lesson for you? Now, when I did that, obviously knowing nothing about music, I cannot come in there and tell you what note to sing or what chord, or I know nothing about that. So she managed that while I was managing the teaching of the tool and what would be happening during their downtime to keep them engaged during that downtime. So that's kind of the idea of the cycle. It is, and then if you get to the end of it and you do that model lesson, and then you kind of model it a time or two, and then third period, she's feeling okay, you kind of step back and let her step forward, and you take the back seat, and then by fourth period, you're just kind of there to support her if she needs you, and then by fifth period, you can be on your way. And obviously, you'd follow up, meet, talk about it, decide this step. You want to take another step the cycle? Do we want to work on something else? Is there something else we can improve on? And let them know that you're with them for the duration.
That's a lot, and like Lesley said, it's going to take like a whole grading period. I serve 450 teachers.
And I've got about 320 about 350 at 2 schools.
Okay, so we have a lot of teachers. There's absolutely no way we could do those long coaching cycles with every one of them and really make it meaningful. So sometimes we do have what we call like a short cycle of coaching where a teacher is really just interested in using a new tool. And a lot of times this can be effective with a teacher who is already highly effective, who's kind of like Lesley and is a big sponge and wants to just learn and do and can, pick things up pretty easily, where they just ask you to come in and say, hey, can you help me with Nearpod? Can you show me how to use Seesaw? I want to do this with my kids, but I'm not really sure how it's going to work. Sometimes having that live lesson with 20 to 30 eyeballs staring at you is kind of intimidating for teachers.
And I think our team may very well have coined the term short cycle, because truly, honestly, this is not even a cycle. It's not a cycle. It's not even coaching. Like, we call it that just simply because our team needed something to call it. So when we talk short cycle, we're talking more about a tool.
Modeling a tool.
But we loved the fact that helped us as first-year coaches, especially, to build some trust, to let them see we actually do know what we're talking about a little bit. And if they see you succeed in the small things, then they're willing to trust you more with the big things and maybe be more willing to open themselves up, entering into that actual authentic coaching cycle, which we call the long cycle.
A lot of times people will approach us with a short cycle or model lesson type activity. And for me, when somebody says, hey, can we go do a class kick? I'll always ask them, like, what is your goal for using that tool? Because I want to make sure that it's the right tool for what they need, what their students need, and to see if I can turn this into a longer coaching cycle to meet one of their instructional goals or goals on their team rubric, which is what we use in Tennessee to evaluate.
And we're all supposed to be coming up with those action plans and those future growth plans and always be building those out and knowing what focused work we're doing toward our own growth. So I look at that question that Danny just asked, and I think that is absolutely crucial. The most important question you ask, if you're an instructional technology coach, then you need to be able to go in there and say, yes, I know you want to use Nearpod. You heard about it at a faculty meeting, or your friend down the hall was like, oh my gosh, you got to try this. And you're like, I want to know about Nearpod. And that's awesome. I'm excited when they want to know. But at the same time, the most important question is, what are you trying to teach your students today? And, and if they do know about Nearpod, then ask if you feel confident they know what it is. How do you see that tool supporting your target? And if not, let me explain kind of what Nearpod can do, how you could use that tool to accomplish what you already plan to do. So we did write a guest blog with Teach Boost. I'm getting tongue-tied. Teach Boost's blog called The Launchpad. It's a really awesome blog to visit if you're a coach. It really has some insightful articles and blogs by guest bloggers and some of their own, I think, faculty as well from their company that shares all about coaching and the challenges we face. So you can move on down, and there's some things down here that you could use for the coaching cycle to kind of facilitate it and manage it better, and do that intentional and purposeful scheduling.
To coaching strategies. These are just some things we've either done and have found that work, we've shared, that we've learned from blogs or webinars that have worked in buildings in our district. There's a few here. Lesley and I are just going to kind of share some of our favorites and explain a little bit about how we do that. Okay, so my favorite, if we go down just a little bit, is the mission and vision. Our district is very different in that we have all of the high schools. We have 7 high schools. All of them have a career academy inside of them. We have elementary schools. I work at 2 of the elementary schools that have different academies, I guess you would call them, specializations. So I work at a STEM school, And I also work at a Spanish immersion school. So we have kindergartners who have just been immersed in Spanish. And so thinking about the vision and the mission of my specific schools, what do they need, has really helped me cater to their needs and to specialize some of my learning. When I went to ISTE, I knew that that my STEM school was going to start some makerspace stuff, that they were really trying to get some more technology going into their STEM program. They have a drone now for their outdoor garden. So they were just really wanting to add some different things. So being able to look for some of those ideas while I was at ISTE, and when I go on some blogs and PLNs and stuff like that, it just helps me to meet their needs. And it also gives me some good ideas to just go to them and suggest, so that, you know, we can all grow together. The other one that I found that's really successful is quick visits. I get to my schools earlier in the morning. I'm an elementary school, so they don't start, you know, at 6:30 in the morning like some of the high schools. But I like to get there a little bit early and stay a little bit later, and just walking through the hallways during this informal time where teachers are out in the hallway, they're preparing for their day. They always catch me. I have to walk around with a little sticky note, just because there's things that they need, or, hey, I meant to ask you about that. Everything is fresh on their mind in the morning. And I think being visible is important. They don't forget that you're there. I'm only there once a week, so I need to make sure that they know that I'm there and I'm there to support them. And when I'm standing right in front of them, it's a great time for them to ask for whatever help or support that they need.
I don't get pulled to that bridge and the coach help them to see, I'm just one of you.
Yeah.
I'm not your boss. I'm not going to sit in some office waiting on you to come to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming to you.
And I really try to be mindful too. You know, I talked to a teacher the other day, something had happened with her dad. Keep that in my head. Next time I see her, I need to ask her about that and build that relationship and that trust. So like you said, it's breaking down that wall that I am one of you. I'm, you know, part of this building. I care about you, and I'm here to support you in whatever way that I can.
And in all honesty, in our district, this role is simply a parallel move. We have no authority. We are not superior to them. We might be teacher leaders, but we're not their boss. So it's just coming alongside them and helping them in what they're already doing. The other one I wanted to share very quickly is data-driven instruction. And that is just be really intentional about gathering and collecting data. Because as teachers, that's very easy. We get it from assessment. We know how our students are doing. You have got to be very intentional about collecting data, even if you have to get creative about what you call data, in order to gauge your work and see if you can measure the success of your work, or where you have areas for improvement or areas that are going well, so that you can fill in the gaps. So, and if you look on the year one under the personal growth plan tab, you will see kind of just one tiny example of the way that we have pulled our calendar data. We have to keep a calendar log for our department. Each of us keep a calendar log of the appointments we make. We have uniform ways to schedule and calendar all of our appointments with teachers, so that we can then reflect on our work mid-year and end of the year and see where you're spending the majority of your time. Maybe you need to portion your time out better. We go much deeper in our analysis than this, but this is just kind of an idea of how you might do that.
So that's a lot of learned from our first to second year. There's tons more. We had no idea that educational technology, that there was this whole universe out there, that were badges and certificates that you could earn, and badges were like gold. And we put some more of that information on here too.
And I will say that my first year, in year one, I spent the majority of my time with badges and certifications and personal learning network, because I needed to grow. I needed to get confidence. I needed to learn what coaching was. And it was all about me learning and growing and going out there and trying to practice it. And this year, it's become a little less about that and more about the actual doing the work. So
I invite you to explore our website more as we wrap this up. But we would like you to go to the Coach to Coach tab. We have created a Flipgrid, and we have just invited coaches from our district and from other places around to come in and share just some of the things, their takeaways from their first year of coaching, their most valuable lessons. I think this could be a really valuable place to kind of just share and network with each other. So we want you to do that as
We
we
would love for you to do that, even if it's after the fact. And then one other place that there is for you to share under Personal Learning Network, there's a Padlet on there. Maybe you got some hashtags or handles that you think would be good for us to follow or for some of the other people in this session to follow. Please add those hashtags and handles to the Padlet. We would love to check those out as well. We love and welcome any feedback you can give us.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks.
All right, thank you, ladies. At this point, I don't see any questions in the chat, so I am going to go ahead and close us out. If anyone does have any questions, please go ahead and put those into the chat. I can still see that. And just to thank you all for coming tonight. And if you'd like to give feedback, right here's the link for the bit.ly for ETC webinar feedback. And we thank our presenters tonight. And again, this is our final webinar series of the year. So thank you for joining us tonight and any other night that you took your time out to join our webinar. Don't forget, we do have our Twitter chats coming up the final Tuesday of every month. I believe that would be the 26th of this month. So again, that bit.ly is bit.ly/ETC webinar feedback. With that, I'm going to come back and stop my screen sharing and stop the broadcast. So everyone, thank you very much. And yes, Tammy, the link, you asked for the link. The link is in the chat. If you scroll up, I will try to, in fact, I can quickly screen share again and show you where the chat is. So anyone who did not get the chat, they maybe came in a few moments late, here is the link to the resource page, the https sites.google.com/cmcss.net/pro-on-the-grow/home. And that is in the chat. Also, if you scroll up, you should be able to find the link directly on the chat there. So I'll just leave this slide up for a moment so you can get that. I think that was for Tam. All right. Again, that's sites.google.com/cmcss.net/pro-on-the-grow/home. And that link is also in the chat. So I'm going to come back here and stop sharing. And I do not think there's anyone else. Any other questions? And if you want to tweet and get in contact with all of us, you can use #ProOnTheGrow hashtag there. And thank you again for coming. Have a wonderful rest of your evening or morning, wherever you're at. Bye-bye.